I'm American Airlines. Listen, I'm not just a person who gives first, second, third, fourth, fifth chances, because this has been so many goddamn chances y'all have had to make this up to me, and y'all haven't done anything. So if y'all see this, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to use this as a PR. I will back y'all if y'all give me some kind of cool privileges or pay me out something. I can, I said I couldn't be bought, but there may be enough dollars in your pocket that I can be bought. And that's what I want to say. We rode American today. It worked out for us. We're all here. It was a great day. Happy to be on the pod. Fresno, we're freaking here. We're rocking this.
First we gonna rock, then we gonna fold, then we let it pop, don't let it go.
All right. Welcome back to Bring the Juice. We are back home in the home studio, but we have some special guests coming to town today. They're here in the studio. One of them is a familiar face, my guy Mac. Mac, welcome back to Fresno and Bring the Juice. Who do we have with us today? And it's also good to see you.
Dude, I am so friggin' fired up to be here right now on this podcast. Happy to be back in Fresno. Love this place. Didn't know anything about it before I came here last time. Was here for less than 24 hours, then we had the whole debacle last time. All that we can talk about later.
We'll get into it.
We're here for one of my best friends, Pierce Quick.
Wow.
Played with me at Alabama. I recruited Pierce.
Ooh.
I was maybe one of the sole reasons. We'll get to hear him talk about it. Hopefully he mentions that he came to the University of Alabama. I got to see him go from truck to Dodge Challenger in a short amount of time. I don't know if I can say much
That's
more.
all you need.
Legend,
That's all you need.
Legend.
Pierce, welcome to Bring the Juice.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on, Frank. Thanks for bringing us out here. Fresno's freaking awesome, man. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend coming forward. So,
I wish I got to recruit him on a visit. I feel like I could have sold him over you, man.
You couldn't have sold him over me, man. It was meticulous. Pierce is a one-of-a-kind guy, You just look at him. Just look at him, He's a one-of-a-kind guy.
One-of-a-kind guy. Pierce, let's start from the beginning, right? So I do my research on guys, and I know you were very highly recruited coming out of high school. A 5-star. Mac, how many stars were you? None. Me too. You know what? Good. As Jocko would say, good. So being a 5-star, obviously, that considers that's a shoo-in for being a highly recruited guy. Having offers from all over the place. How did you end up at Alabama?
So, man, I grew up a diehard Alabama fan. I was from a little town outside of Birmingham called Trustful. My parents were Alabama fans. Grandparents are Alabama fans. I just kind of grew up always cheering for Alabama. And so my freshman year, I got pulled up to varsity, had to play with them a little bit from some injuries and all that stuff. I was 206 pounds, definitely shouldn't have been out there. I mean, got my ass whooped by some guys game one. I mean, I can't remember. It was a guy from Hoover. He went to Florida. Moon, last name Moon.
Jackie?
I was about to say, that's the only moon I can think about. Jackie.
I think it was his last name was Moon, but my freshman year, I'll never forget being out there and first drive, we're going through there and I'm pulling around doing a pass block. He comes down and he hit me so hard, he literally fell on top of me, and that's the only reason he didn't make the sack, because he just hit me on top of me, and he was welcome to varsity football or something like that. And so that was a good little welcome there for that. But after my freshman year, I put on a lot of weight and stuff, and just because I played as a freshman, I got an offer from Jacksonville State, and so in-state school there, I was really fired up about it. And then UAB kind of offered me after that. Played my whole sophomore season, and then went to some camps, did pretty well, and actually Auburn was my first offer, Power 5 offer there.
Yeah.
And so coming from a family of diehard Alabama fans, I'll never forget. We're sitting in Auburn, Alabama. We're riding around, and my parents are, they're taking it in, we're taking it in. I tell everybody, truthfully, that was the best visit I ever went on.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday. There was nobody there except for it was me, my parents, Herb Hand, the offensive line coach at the time, Gus Malzahn, and then Chip Lindsey. We're riding on a golf cart around campus, and this is my first true visit too.
Right.
So we're riding on this golf cart around campus. Coach Lindsey's driving it. It's just the coolest thing ever. And we're doing this tour. We walk into the locker room, and this is a common thing, but being a 16-year-old kid at the time, most surreal moment ever. I walk into that locker room, and there's a 72 jersey Auburn uniform sitting there.
Wow.
And so I put on the Auburn uniform, and I remember there's a voice in the back of my head, and it's what the hell am I doing? Am I really putting an Auburn uniform on right now? But took the pictures, did all that stuff, and then we got to go to Coach Malzahn's office, and he ended up offering me a scholarship. And Coach Malzahn, a great dude. I mean, he was a super nice guy in there. And I remember walking out of his office, and my parents looked at me, and they were like, you know what, son, you could go to Auburn. You could go to Auburn or whatever. And so
wow.
After that, though, the next weekend I had Tuscaloosa lined up. And I remember Coach Key was recruiting me at the time. He was the offensive line coach, and he was actually a Trustful native as well. And so we had a cool little connection there. And afterwards, me and Coach Key had a good relationship too. Like from the past, like I didn't have an offer from Alabama, but he had been talking to me a while from camps, and I remember he's like, "When was the first time Auburn talked to you?" He's like, "I've known you forever. Like, don't buy into that offer and all that stuff." And so the next weekend, I went to Alabama, and Coach Saban ended up offering me in his office, and I still remember the day. It was February 25th.
Wow.
I still remember it to this day. Sophomore year. Second half of my sophomore year. So I just finished my sophomore season, and I remember walking around, and the first thing they did was they walked me in and they took my height and my weight. They wanted to see if I was over 6'4", and I don't think they cared about weight as much. Like, truthfully, as a sophomore, I was like 260, 265.
You still have time.
But I hit the 6'4" mark, and so my defensive coordinator in high school, his name was Rudy Griffin, and great dude. He played at Alabama too, and he truthfully helped me a ton throughout the recruiting process. And he used to always give me little tidbits, so I had what I called my lucky boots. And it was my tallest boots that I would wear everywhere. And I'd wear jeans because when you weighed in, they couldn't make you take your jeans off. So you'd stand there and I'd be a little bit heavier and stuff going on all those visits.
Pierce, we have the exact same philosophy here in the Dalena household, man. When you go on visits, now they were to Alabama, but when we went to visits, you wear your shit kickers and you wear your boots. And I used to throw on a buckle. Like, I throw a hoodie on. It'd be 85 degrees outside. I'm like, I got a hoodie on with 4 T-shirts underneath because they're gonna weigh you in. I might take my boots off. Maybe I can't. And coaches, they'll walk by you and they'll give you one of these.
Yeah, the gravity.
I'm flexing the entire time on this trip. You walk by, you're like, that kid's made of pure muscle. I'm just like, the whole freaking time, like flexing, like all 147 pounds of me at the time. I was just flexing. But yes. Shit kickers, you want to get recruited, and you might be on the cusp of like a height scale that you want. If you're a 5'11" guy, why would you not?
Not only that, but y'all didn't mention I did you introduced me to the what's it called? The tri-tip here?
Oh yeah.
Tri-tip sandwich, baby.
Tri-tip sandwich. I do the tri-socks is what I started calling it, or just made that up off the top of my head. I did 3 socks. I would do 3 layers of socks. In case they did make me take my shoes off, I would be that much taller on visits.
Anyways, Pierce. So Saban offers you.
So we go into his office, and it's me, my mom, my dad, my little brother, and then Coach Griffin, who I was talking about. He was there with me, and I can remember sitting in there, and like Coach Saban has this kind of. So you walk in though first, and he has this button, and the door closes behind you.
He's a button
in his office. So like he clicks a button, and the door just closes behind you as you walk in. And his office, like it's changed now with the new coach and all that, and so his office was very like old school. You know what I mean? Like wooden badass. Walls, like it was like leather couch in there. It was really cool. And you sit down and all of the rings are in front of you from all the years that he had coached. And truthfully, though, like I can remember sitting down and starts off and he's like talking about, just like the process at Alabama. And he tells you from the beginning, like it's hard work and all that stuff. And he's never lying about that. And once he tells me like, Pierce, we're going to offer you a scholarship, like I remember really like blacking out.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in there.
This is the childhood dream that's
exactly like
literally coming true.
100%. Like I can like think of being a kid and like watching the Bama game on TV and it's like, holy shit, like I'm going to have the opportunity to go play here. Right. And I mean, I wanted to commit right then. Like there was no question. Like I knew I wanted to go to Bama, but my parents and coaches had made some good points. Like you only go through the recruiting process one time.
True.
You might as well enjoy it. And like, that was my second visit ever.
Yeah.
And so went there.
And you're highly recruited. It's not like we're scrapping to get a spot on a roster. Like you have options.
Were you a 5-star as a sophomore?
So not at this time.
Okay.
When you're that young, like if you have an offer, you're a 4-star. There's not as much like evaluation and stuff in there. I feel like at that time, especially. And so like you have an offer, you're a 4-star, and that's kind of how it was. And then, so I'm driving back home from Tuscaloosa, like still in this like just, oh my gosh, like
shock.
Complete shock. My phone just starts ringing. Oregon offers me. Texas State offers me. Somebody else, like this is literally on the car ride back from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. Like coaches I've never even talked to before. Like my coach is calling me and he's like, because recruiting rules and all that stuff, they can't call you. They got to call your head coach. Then you call through there. And so my coach would be like, hey, call this guy. Call him. Scholarship. Never talked to him before. And then like that week at school, I go back. Ole Miss offers me. Another school offers me. I mean, it was just like out of nowhere, this like wave of just craziness. And it was just like, I feel like once you get that Bama scholarship, and anybody can say this, it's other schools just follow. They don't really have to know anything about you. Yeah, it's like, Bama offered them, and we're going to offer them now so that we can say we did.
Right.
And like most of those offers are, people talk about fake offers and real offers and all that stuff. And the reason that is these schools will offer these kids when they're young. And let's say a kid doesn't pan out. They'll be like, hey, man, that wasn't a committable offer. But then the kid ends up being good as a senior. And it's like, hey, we were the first school to offer you. even though he couldn't have committed as a sophomore or whatever. They know you're not going to commit as a sophomore. And so some of those offers were probably that, but I just remember it being nuts. And then I went to LSU the next weekend, went to Tennessee, and just started kind of going on a little tour. And then I remember going to Georgia. I was doing like a Nike opening camp out there. I went to Georgia and loved the staff there. Coach Smart was awesome, and everything was great. There was nothing wrong with it. But I can remember standing there and thinking in my head, and like the recruiting person we're walking around with, she was like, yeah, we have this. And I was like, yeah, Bama has that too, but it's better. You know, like thinking that in my head. Like literally like, she's like pointing stuff out, and I'm like, yeah, Bama has that too, but it's better. So give it April 20th, April 22nd, sometime around that range. I can't remember the exact date, but I went to 8A for Alabama spring game and kind of knew before and ended up committing there and never really wavered from there. I visited a couple schools as I got older just because I wanted to, make sure when you're a senior kind of going in. So I think my junior year I went to like Mississippi State and Clemson. They had gotten some Mississippi State, they gotten a new coach that I really liked, wanted to kind of go meet him, went up there. But at the end of the day, I was always going to Bama. And then kind of how me and Mac met here when I'm in high school, once I committed to Alabama, like on the weekends, all these other recruits are going to other schools. And so Coach Key, who was recruiting me, he obviously didn't want me to go anywhere else. So it was an open door to Alabama. Any weekend I wanted to go to Tuscaloosa, open door. Like that was what I loved about it so much. I'd walk in the facility, I felt like I was already there. All the coaches were friendly, they knew me, like all the players kind of knew me at that point. Mac was just unbelievable. I remember probably my junior year I met Mac, and it was after one of the games or in the locker room or something, and Mac had walked up to me, just being a guy from Birmingham and like trying to be a friendly guy, introduce himself to me, and me and Mac kind of clicked from there. And there was a lot of times I'd come up, stay at Mac's house and kind of hang out, and like that was a great thing. That was just kind of how we had met. He was always recruiting me, and on my official visit, Mac was my host for that, and so it was a lot of fun. But that's kind of how I ended up there, and then early enrolled and went from there.
And I want to bring up this point. So it was awesome that Pierce did this. So like Pierce and I started to develop a friendship, little brother, but also like a best friend.
Right.
And everyone, like he said, everyone at the facility knew him leading up to it. Like it was like as a junior in high school, as a senior in high school, whatever, that he was already on the team. And then the best thing is I remember we talked about this. Pierce and I were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm heavy on Alabama and all this stuff. I was like, dude, you got a good opportunity here. And we talked it out, and I don't want to take credit for it, but Pierce took the lead and was the first. Were you the first guy who signed?
Yeah, so I was like the actual first commit of my class was Trey Sanders, funny enough, or Evan Neal, one of them. Both of them decommitted. So like, they committed as like true freshmen in high school at IMG. Both of them decommitted, and then I was the first commit after that and kind of the longest one throughout there. And so Coach Key and Mac, like as I was going through it, and I remember taking these visits and stuff. And I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world once you get in there, like especially when you start to get older. It's like, hey, you've been committed here for a year and a half, like, and I understand where it's coming from. Commitment means something too. It should mean something.
Should mean
like,
something.
They're talking like, hey, like we don't really like you visiting these other schools. And for me, it's like, okay, like I understand that. You know what I mean? And truthfully, it was a reality check. Like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to Alabama. You know what I mean? Like, why the hell am I even trying to do this? I think it was just a part of me was like,
it was the
okay,
trend.
I enjoy it a little bit more. And like, when I was younger in high school, the Twitter and stuff wasn't as big, like Instagram and all that. My senior year of high school was probably when that started to kind of change. Like Twitter started to come a lot more big. Like you said, that was the trend, going on all these visits and doing these stuff.
Taking the photo shoots and it's a flex.
It is. And so like I kind of like, I think it hit a point on me where I was like, damn, like maybe I should have done that more. But then it was like, dude, I'm going to the best school in the country. Like, what the hell am I thinking? Like, I don't need to visit anywhere else. And so that's kind of what Mac was talking about. Him and Coach Key had kind of talked about it. Mac was a big part into it. And it was like, hey, we want you to kind of take over this recruiting class. We want you to reach out to guys. We want you to be active on Twitter. Like, you can't be that if you're visiting other schools, which is true. You know what I mean? Like, if you're another kid and, like, let's say I'm a younger guy and you kind of look up to a senior guy who's playing. Right. You see he's committed to Alabama, but he's visiting all these other schools. It's like, why is he doing that? What's Bama doing to him? Like, that would be kind of my first thought. So
I agree.
Totally understood it and didn't visit anywhere after that and was actively trying to recruit guys. Like, I remember they'd send me a guy's number that they wanted. I'd text him. It was right on it. And I was like, hey, man, like,
we're building something
like,
special
what you
here.
need, like, roll tide.
He helped build, like, it was it was awesome to see because I was into Twitter and all that stuff. Remember, like, I was into that kind of stuff, and I helped him leverage it. And he really took on his recruiting class and was, like, the guy. Like, there was, like, Pierce, and then he helped build this whole class. Obviously, guys were going to go there already, whether they knew Pierce or not,
Yeah.
But Pierce really helped out and took a stance as being one of the earliest guys who was full-on committed, ready to go to the University of Alabama, who helped, like, build that. And that was one of the, I mean, I haven't talked to you about that in a long time, but that was a really fun, like, part of it is, like, he was really building that class, like, helping build it a lot, and fans were, like, loving him. And he's an offensive lineman. You'd think, like, a skill guy or, like, a running back, quarterback is Pierce.
Something more shiny. Yeah. That's
like,
awesome.
Dude, that's, like, for me, too, like, my thought of it was like I was recruiting offensive linemen. I wasn't just trying to recruit other positions. Like, consider myself a pretty selfless dude. Like, I was calling guys that I was going to be competing against at the end of the day. But I didn't care. Like, my thought of it was like, first off, like, that's a soft mentality. You know what I mean? If you're worried about other guys coming in, it's like, hey, I'm going to do my shit. I don't want to worry about anybody else. I want to build the best class possible that maybe people are going to remember. You know what I mean? Like, my goal was always literally for us to be not only the number one class, but to be one of the best classes ever. And that was something I used to kind of say. And I don't know if we were the best ever, but it was a pretty damn good class that ended up coming in there.
How did you, enrolling early, how difficult of the decision was that? And then that quick switch where it's like, you got buddies now going to prom and doing this, that, other, and guess what? You're at Alabama Spring Bowl.
So I have like two different sides to it. Actually, the first guy I ever saw do it was, I think it was Nico Collins at Clay Chalkville. And he graduated earlier. No, it wasn't Nico. Who's the receiver that went to Alabama from Clay?
TJ Simmons.
TJ Simmons.
Yep.
He graduated early. And that was the first guy from Birmingham. And that was my rival high school kind of. But that was the first guy from Birmingham I can remember doing it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And I was like a freshman in high school. And I was like, Dad, this is something I want to do. So literally the first offer that I got from Jacksonville State, I went to my school counselor as a sophomore or as a freshman at this time. And I was like, hey, I want to graduate early.
Yeah.
And nobody at my school had ever done it before or anything. But I think because I went so young and was like, hey, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. Like, my high school did nothing but help.
Right.
Once they heard that that's what I wanted to do. And then the hardest part of it is you have to get approval from the college. At least for my high school, it was like you had to get like, for my high school, it had to be like a letter of approval from like Alabama saying we want you to graduate early so that they can like approve it and all that stuff. And so my counselor was really cool though and kind of let me go ahead and start taking those classes young online, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't get approved, it doesn't matter anyway. You know, it's just taking extra classes. And so Miss McGehee was my counselor, and she really like helped me out, put me through it. And like during the summer, I never had to do anything extra really. It was like some easy online classes. And then my senior year, I had 2 classes every day.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, I didn't have to go to school till like 11 o'clock. I mean, it was basically just playing football for my senior year. And so it was really nice. And then Paul Tyson, one of our other friends who ended up playing football at Bama, he early enrolled as well. And he didn't move until our junior year. So when he moved in, he early enrolled. It kind of helped out a little bit too. It's like, okay, now we got 2 guys doing it. And so it was honestly a really easy process. But looking back, like, I didn't go to the Under Armour All-American game because of it. I didn't go to kind of some of these All-American games. And like, I decided to even go earlier and practice with the team for bowl games before they played Clemson.
Wow.
And so I went in and like, it's mixed feelings for it because like I'm very happy I did it. I got to go in and get some extra practices, but
You finished high school season and then kept your pads and went.
I had like a week off, 2 weeks off, and then
You
went to
finished high school
Tuscaloosa.
season as a senior in high school, and then went to Tuscaloosa and started practicing college football. Well, they're still in the same season technically.
17 years old, and so now a bunch of kids are doing. They actually made it now where these kids can play. 17-year-old can come in early enroll and he can like actually practice and play.
You could go win a state championship and
then go win
yet
Natty.
go win the Natty in the same year. That's
And
fucking
he was a
crazy.
part. You know what I'm saying? What's crazy is like, although he didn't get to play, he was a critical part. To
Dude,
Like, I was on scout team.
Anybody
He's a huge
who's
part.
played, it's like that's crazy. That's just crazy as a when you're. It's cool to talk about after the fact, but when you're in it, that's insane.
No, it was nuts, and like that's why like at the time I did it. You know what I mean? I'm 17 years old, and I get told I can go ahead and start practicing with the team and come out there and do that. And so it's like, yeah, let's go do that. Me and Paul did it too, who was my roommate in college, one of my best friends too.
LPT.
Yeah, and so when he was going to do it also, it was like, okay, you're doing it, I'm doing it. Like, you know, we were best friends, so we both decided to do it. And it was really good because I got these extra practices, but my offensive line coach ended up leaving like a month afterwards. So it was kind of like restarting anyways. And you know, looking back, like I wish I would have done those All-American games.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. Like, yeah, they're all for like the pictures and there's injuries, risking and stuff. But like now being done with football,
Right.
and you know, you're not worried about the injuries and all that stuff. But like thinking back, like it would have been cool to get to go. Like they sent me a jersey, they did all this cool stuff. But like I do wish I would have traveled out there and played in the game. Like I think it was something, and that was something I looked up to wanting to do when I was younger.
Yeah, it's a
and
cool
I think,
thing.
yeah, I just got so caught up in the moment of wanting to go to Alabama as soon as possible. I did it, and it's not that I regret it. I just wish that I maybe would have done that game.
Yeah.
And then, but missing the prom and stuff, that didn't really bother me as much. And I think it's because I knew so young that I wanted to do that. So I treated my junior year as prom as my senior year.
Right.
And my junior year, I was like, all right, this is gonna
You
be
knew
my-
already.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna be my last prom. So like that wasn't really a big deal. And I can tell you this: early enrolling is a huge difference. I think even Matt could say he's seasoned guys. When you early enroll, you feel like you're in a different class than the other guys.
Yeah.
It's like you get there in January, you go through a whole off season. And the true off season, like summer's an off season too, but like
it's not an off season.
It's not the same.
It ain't winter and spring.
It's not our
and
fourth
summer.
quarter program.
Yeah, fourth quarter. Like they're not worried about injuries as much in the winter. You know what I mean? You got time to recover, like shin splints and all. You got time. You can get better. Whereas in the summer, like you got to pipe it down a little bit. Sometimes you're a little bit more worried about the season. So you get to come in, and your first experience as a college football player is fourth quarter.
Yeah,
and I mean it's hell. I mean you're sitting there and like it's terrible. I mean there's no other conditioning program as bad as it. I mean I can just like. And the worst thing is, and I remember Coach Saban saying this, and so ours was at 3:30
in the morning.
No, afternoon.
Okay,
so that's when it started. And a bunch of other coaches that had worked for Coach Saban before, they tried to follow act and do fourth quarter kind of the same way, but they do it at 6 a.m. Coach Saban said the reason he did it at 3:30 is so you'd sit in class all day and have to think about it.
Wow.
And it's like, because like, a lot of it's mental. 99% of it's mental. Like your body, most of the time, you've been put in the right shape to do it. Like you can do it. It's just mentally. And so like, it was just, that's part of like his mental game there. I'll never forget that. 3 to 3:30, so you have to sit in class and think about what you're going to do in fourth quarter all day.
But think about that, dude. What's crazy, I still think about it. Pierce like made the good point. Like he was basically like I would have associated him with when I was whatever year I was I
class up?
Yeah. I would have associated him with the class up, and I think most of the guys in that class would have associated him almost in that class as well.
Right.
Because there's a lot of bonding in that January time. Like in
It's the hardest part of the year.
We're training for the national championship, and then he comes in and he's going through fourth quarter with us.
Right.
Yeah, hardest part of the year. Like it's wild to think. Like I don't know. It's fun. This whole conversation is fun because I'm like, okay, these are things I didn't even think about,
Dude.
But like now I'm like, I completely forget this about your career.
The practicing thing after the senior season is crazy.
It's
like,
wild.
That's
playing
different.
them.
Dude, has anybody done it yet?
Yeah, somebody did it last year. I'm pretty sure. We'll have to look it up or something, but I'm pretty sure somebody last season did it.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
'Cause I remember it blowing up on Twitter.
Checking.
I remember it blowing up on Twitter.
I think
I
think the Tennessee quarterback. I'm blanking on his name right now.
I know you're talking about
Long last name. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he was gonna do it at some point and maybe didn't.
Yeah.
Or he dressed. Oh, you know what? Dude, one of my brother's best friends did it. He played at Fresno State, and their bowl game was later in the year, and he hit the portal after the end of the season, transferred to Minnesota. The Gophers, they had a bunch of quarterback injuries. Was told like you might have to start. Played a whole season with Fresno State, and then he hit the portal again and ended up at Montana. But like total like that's crazy. People don't realize. I think it's not like baseball where you could get traded and listen. Tell me where I'm hitting in the lineup. If I got to play left field, I know my responsibilities for left field. If I'm hitting a baseball, okay. It doesn't matter what team the guy's on, right? If you're on an offense in a Division I level football team, like, do you understand the attention to detail and things you have to be on the same page on, whether it's signals, alignment, audibles, checks, like it takes months to get that shit down. Like there's stuff you're talking about stuff in January. Like you start practicing in t-shirts and shorts plays in January, and then it could be November and you are running the exact same thing. You probably got 1,000 reps of that in that period.
Yeah.
You probably run it 6 times a day, 300 days. Like you're in it to win it. And just to be like, go ahead, highest level there is. Go ahead, buddy. Let that raw talent hit. I think that also shows, not to get off topic here, but like the testament to like a couple seasons back when Baker Mayfield went and got picked up by the Rams on like a Tuesday and started Thursday Night Football. And won.
Well, same thing with Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I'm thinking from a quarterback perspective.
Okay. Well, sorry. It's still crazy from the perspective of a running back.
But he went and won, and then he was on the Bucks.
Yeah.
But Frank, that's why I make such a big deal of the playing part, because like when I went there, like I was helping the team, I was practicing, but somebody was holding a card in front of my face and it showed me who to block.
Right.
Anybody can do that. Like it's not that hard. But thinking about like I can remember like I had to go in at a point out there because like it was a 2-minute drill or something, and somebody was down, and Coach Key was like, "Pierce, you go out there and you go do it." And he knew I didn't know any of the plays or anything. Like they didn't even try to teach me the playbook. They were literally just like handing me scout cards, like, and that was my job. And so I'm fired up. I go running out there, and like play two. LeBron Ray, he welcomed me to college football. You know, I have a high school welcome to high school football, and then I have a college welcome to college football, and it was LeBron Ray. I was pass setting, and like Emil Ekier is the guard next to me, and he's like, all right. He was literally telling me what to do. He's like, set left, like block LeBron right there, and we're doing this 2-minute drill. I set, hands straight in the chest. I think I elevated off the ground. Because like also at this time I was 270. When I graduated high school, I was 270 pounds. I put on 30 pounds my early enrollee semester.
Yeah.
So that was
He'll get you right.
Yeah, yeah. Even just eating and all that stuff there. And so I tell everyone my freshman year, my diet, I used to have to walk in, and so that was right when they'd built like the new dining hall and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would have to eat a whole steak, and then I'd eat dinner.
Yeah.
The steak was like the warm up there, so I'd get my calories and all that stuff because I was a lighter guy. And so I can tell you this: being a light offensive lineman and going into college is a dream come true. I mean, they just feed you everything. Yeah. You're just eating everything for free. I mean, you can't beat it.
Bro, my buddy Natani Muti played at Fresno. He was 200 pounds his junior year, first game junior year as an O-Lineman. 300 pounds first game his senior year. He put 100 pounds on in a year. Crazy, bro. Straight up island boy, though. Like, doesn't wear shoes. Birthdays miscellaneous. Like, playing on the lines right now, hooping. But it's crazy how you say that. And, dude, it's hard. I mean, I don't know. Did you ever have trouble, like, putting weight on or having to maintain?
You're
just a dog.
I was a dog.
It's hard to put weight on, man. It's hard. Like, my family, we have fast metabolisms. We're constantly moving. And we were playing, in high school, we were all 3-sport, 4-sport athletes to where, yes, you're trying to put on weight for football because that was always the primary. But it's like, well, I'm going to ball out and, whatever I'm playing, whatever season it is, I'm going to ball out in that.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to put weight on for football, even though I'm in baseball season right now, for instance. And that's much easier said than done. So your time at Bama begins. You got your cherry popped, obviously.
Got my cherry popped there, yep. And so get there, and we go through that first spring ball or whatever. And my first year, when I early enrolled, like I was talking about, like you're just miles ahead because you get those extra practices of spring ball. When you're early enrolled there, and
it does change
practices that you get ahead. And there were some injuries, and so I got to run with the 2s that first time. And so for the 8A game, I got to start, for the second string team or whatever. Right. And so that was really cool, man. It was a cool experience. And then I remember finishing up and getting through my first semester of college. And one thing at Alabama is we tell everybody you really only have 2 breaks, and it's right after 8A. You get normally about 10 to 15 days of school left where you don't have football. It's like the one time where you get to be a normal student. Like there's no workouts, there's no meal requirements, there's nothing. You can just kind of be free for a little bit and finish up school. And then after you win the national championship, those were about the only 2 breaks you ever got. And so it was cool, like, grinding that whole spring and really seeing my body change, and like putting on all that weight and going back home. And that was awesome. And then go home for a little bit, come back for summer workouts. And I mean, dude, it was great. I got to learn from some of the best offensive linemen you can imagine. Like, I got to play with Jedrick Wills, Alex Leatherwood, Evan Neal was my age, but still, he's a great offensive lineman too, and just got to play with some really cool guys there that were really good players. And then Deontay Brown too, and and Landon Dickerson also. And Landon came in a year later, but that was like one of the coolest things is the guys that I got to play with and looking at them now and how successful they are. But yeah, so we go through summer workouts, and I was kind of a second string guy the whole year as a true freshman, and go into my freshman year, and I got to play in the first 4 games right there. And so after I played in the first 4 games, they had just made that new rule where you play 4, then red shirt. And so played in 4 games, red shirted. And I just kind of hung, after you figure out your red shirting, I was lucky enough where they still traveled me to every game. So I got to travel, like I still got to enjoy it, like which was Kyle Flood, my offensive line coach that year. I really appreciated that. Like even being red shirted, he let me still enjoy traveling with the team. Cause like when you're a freshman at a school like Alabama, like a bunch of guys don't get travel, scholarship or not, only a certain amount of guys make that cut. And so that was a lot of fun getting to do that. And then after my freshman year, freshman year ends, then COVID happens. And, we got to enjoy it a little bit. And, like, truthfully, it's kind of a bad taste in our mouth. Like, we went to the Citrus Bowl freshman year, and I tell everyone this story. And so as a young kid, like, we go to the Citrus Bowl, we go to Orlando. Like, I had a good time. It was my first ever bowl experience, like, really cool. But you could kind of tell the vibe around there.
Wasn't good enough.
We called it the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of like,
that was my last year.
Literally pissed at the fact that we're not in the playoffs. We had just lost to Auburn before that, which kept us out of the SEC championship. And so everybody's pretty upset about it. Like, you know, obviously we went out, we handled business, and it was a fun trip. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie, it was a fun trip. But after that, we come back,
Right.
and get back into town, have our little break, and then we come back. We start going through fourth quarter. During that fourth quarter change is when Coach Cochran had left. We bring in a new strength coach, and that new strength coach comes in. I think it was like his first official day on the job is like when all this COVID stuff kind of starts. And so it starts getting a little bit weird. And then I can remember sitting in the dorms and we get a notification that the NBA shut down.
Bro, it's crazy. Started in Utah. I was living in Utah. Utah, it was like Rudy Gay or some shit. Bro.
Yes, and he did
They were like, they're not going to play tonight. It's like, all right, gives a f***, let's go. Everything else, the world's going to go on. But yeah.
We're like, no way this is real. You know what I mean? Like, we're looking around at each other. We're like, there's no way that this is actually happening, that we're, like that this COVID thing's a big deal. Like, truthfully, we're kind of blowing it off. And then I remember we're all sitting in we were doing some renovations on the facility at the time. Mm-hmm. So we moved our, like, players lounge, and we didn't really have a locker room. It was literally in the indoor facility. We just put our stuff. And so our, like, hangout area was kind of in this old players lounge area that they turned into the training room and everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's in here this day. And Coach Saban, what he used to always do is like we'd have spring break, but the day before spring break started, that Friday, he'd host a meeting in our first practice. And I think it was so nobody could leave early. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be like, normally everybody else, like, they finish class at 12 o'clock on Friday, boom, you go on spring break.
Right.
We finished class at 3 o'clock, we had meetings. And so our spring break got delayed a little bit, and it was to knock out that first day in just helmets. We'd wear just helmets, and it was so right when we got back from spring break, we could go into full pads. Well, back to last a little bit, we're sitting in there, and everybody's in the training room, and they're all talking about, like, COVID. Like, that's the talk, and it's like, hey, like, what's going to happen? And somebody's like, I don't think we're having practice today. Next thing you know, we get a text, and it's team meeting. We go and sit in the team meeting room, and Coach Saban's like, yeah, we're going to have to cancel right now. We're sending everybody home. Truthfully, at that time, we're like, oh, heck yeah, like,
right.
3 weeks spring break. You know what I mean? We're like, yeah, extended spring break. Let's go. And I remember I went to the beach and go down to the beach. Halfway through that trip, Ubers stopped picking up. Restaurants.
Was
started
that the
closing.
beach trip?
Yeah, that was.
We went on this beach trip
spring
together.
break, that was when you had just came off another spring break or something.
Yep, I was on one spring break before, and then went on the second spring break with Pierce and Giles, a couple of our other teammates.
But like all the bars just aren't open. And like when you're on spring break, you're kind of in this false reality. You're not watching the news. You have no idea what's going on. Like, I mean, you're just having a good time. And so
find some cold booze.
Yeah, exactly. That's about it. And so the next thing you know, the Ubers are shut down. We're like, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
like, this is weird. And then we get a message after spring break, and it's like, hey, we're going to start doing these Zoom meetings, and we're not coming back right now. Like right now, it's TBT. I think like June 6th was the date or something, like tentatively. So that time was like, what in the world is going on? I'm back home. I will say this, my Paul I was telling y'all about earlier, his dad got us like a nice little weight rack and all this stuff, and like we were working out every day. We had a turf facility to run on, and so we were still working out. We were getting, we were still getting after it. Like we're running and stuff, but it's not the same.
It's not the same, man.
Like I don't care what anybody says, it's not the same as when you're in there with your team.
And you can't push yourself the way that you're pushed in that weight room and when conditioning's happening with the boys.
And like the lifting was easy for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like being an offensive lineman, like I could push myself lifting. It's hard to push yourself in a 100 when you're by yourself. You're running a 110 alone. I mean, you're
looking at your split. You're like, that's a 16-seconder. Ooh,
it's hard to push yourself there. And so, fast forward, we come back and like, dude, it's crazy. I remember the day we get back, somebody sends a text and they're like, hey, player-led practice at the band field. So at Alabama, like we had this band field and it was all turf field and it's where our band practiced.
There's a field where the band practices?
For the band. Full turf, like 100, full field, like and it's nice.
We had guys training there too. Like there was a wide receiver coach who trained a bunch of guys who would train them out there. I think he got in trouble for it, but like it's a sick field.
It's nice. Like it's very nice for like a band field out there. And
sick.
So somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they called together and like it wasn't any bad thoughts or anything. Like, at the end of the day, we're college kids. We don't really understand what's going on with the
play around practice.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's a
Let's go get some work
practice. We weren't told we couldn't. Well, next thing you know, this player-led practice turns into like 70 people out there. News shows up. We don't think anything of it. Like in like Fox or whoever it is, somebody's out there like videoing us practicing during COVID restrictions.
I remember seeing Slade on some of those.
Yeah, and then I remember like the next day, we had our COVID testing because this was the day before technical report date. But you know how it is. Everybody gets back the day before because, like, nobody's going to show up at 6 a.m.
No. There's a meeting at 4:30, and then you start it the next
So
day. Yeah.
Everybody got back the day before we did that. Well, the next day was the COVID test. Oh, my gosh. Like, everybody freaking test positive. I mean, it's just like an absolute, like, madhouse. Like, everybody's testing positive. Nobody knows what's going on. And so changes the dynamic of everything. I mean, we have like 8 workout groups.
Oh, dude.
Like 8, maybe more. Like maybe 8's an understatement. It was like every hour and a half there was a workout group of like 15 people in there. And we got to wear these masks.
Fuck.
And like, you ever tried to run a 110 in the humidity with a mask on? I mean,
I got a
you're
mask
waterboarding
story when
yourself.
you're done.
Like, you tell yours because I mean, it's the worst.
So, Jake, will you hand me my helmet? So, I was in Park City, Utah, training for the Olympics, and when you train with skeleton, you are head first on your belly going downhill. Well, it was chill, and then COVID hit, and everyone's like, "Hey, we need to get tested for COVID every single day. Every single day, you had to come in and take a COVID test." And it started off where you're like really swabbing, and by the end of it, I'm like swabbing air and shit. I'm like, I'm not sliding today because you tested positive for COVID. If I feel like shit, then all right, I get it. Long story short, so I had to wear a mask. There's nobody. I'm by myself going 80 miles an hour down a mountain. Nobody's around me, right? And they're like, you need to wear a mask underneath your helmet. We don't want you guys to infect each other. I'm like, bro. And when you train for this type of stuff, like you're racing countries. So like it's not like I'm training with a few Americans, but I'm racing against like Italy, Japan, Israel, Ireland, like you name it. So some of these guys are international. They don't want to get like shipped off because of some shit and whatnot. So I got my mask on, bro, and I'm going to slide it. And in this sport, you run for like 30, 40 yards, and then you jump on your sled and you go downhill. Imagine being on a roller coaster going 80 head first with no brakes, and you're just got to not breathe heavy, right? Bro, my mask was like a little under my nose, and I'm breathing heavy. My mask, I can't see. I'm fogged up, bro. And there's 15 curves at the Park City track for the Team USA training facility. Bro, it's like turn 6. I can't see anything. I legit held on and just prayed. Like, couldn't see. You're going 80, slamming into walls, and everything's gravity based. So like if you slam into one wall, it shoots you up a different wall. These walls are like 15 feet high, bro. And I'm just I finished the race. I finished my run, and I'm like, I've never been hit like that in my life, bro. I'm not kidding. It's like 7 car accidents in the matter of 30 seconds. Ambulance was waiting up top for me.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, hey, are you good, bro? This was my racing helmet, my practice helmet, all f***ed up. Mouthpiece, I like bit my mouthpiece in half. I could show you. I'll send some for this clip, Jake. I'll send you some pictures. I had these bruises on my arm, bro, that looked like somebody spray painted black shit on them, and my neck up so bad. I missed the next day and wrapped a blanket, like a heating blanket, around my head. And you can ask Brittany. I was like feeding myself a cup of noodles at like a 90-degree angle. I was like, I can't even bend over. I can't even look at my toes right now, bro. Those masks is what I'm getting at,
Dude,
bro.
I mean, this looks pretty secure right here. I mean, I don't know what you need a mask under that for. Like,
Shit will f you up.
Yeah, well, no, what's unbelievable is that you had to wear a mask under
that's what I'm
this
saying. That doesn't
mask.
make sense.
And at Vanderbilt, we had to wear on the helmet
Shield.
bars. We had
Yes.
to wear we didn't wear a shield. We had a sheet cloth across the bars, and then we had a gator mask that went over the mouth. That was unbelievable. Like I was like breathing in sweat. I was like tasting the sweat. Okay, that was a little weird, like dynamic there, but I was tasting the sweat.
Yeah.
I could hardly breathe. And it's like coming out. I'm like, I can't breathe. In this.
Bro, I used to go like this. I'd come off a sprint. Imagine you're off a huge adrenaline rush, and I'd be like, and everyone's like, mask, mask, mask. And you're like, off, man. We're outside. Like, no one's within 20 feet of me.
No, it was ridiculous, dude. Like,
COVID was out of hand, bro.
And Pierce,
It's out
tell
of hand.
them. So obviously Alabama. When when all of COVID was going on, obviously it was a hard time for the whole entire country. But I remember saying to people, if there's one team that's going to have like a grip on it, it's going to be the University of Alabama. They're going to figure this out.
Well, and we did.
Saban y'all had, y'all had what, the Apple Watch that tracked everything.
So
So how did Alabama football handle the COVID season?
So when we go back home, that's a good point, Mac. I didn't even think about that. We have that meeting with Coach Saban, and Coach Saban's like, before everybody leaves, though, you got to go to the weight room and meet with like strength coaches or whatever. We go into the weight room. I think they bought every Apple Watch in the state of Alabama that day. They gave every person on the team Apple Watches. Yeah. And the Apple Watch every day we had to send to Dr. Ray or Coach Ballou our heart rate with like all the stats, like sleep stats.
I don't know what you're doing
there. Yeah, so they wanted to know like exactly if you were working out and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you could tell when you came back, but that was their way of tracking it. Is a brand new Apple Watch that told you everything, sleep, running, all that stuff. And I remember, I think I still have pictures on my phone of just like snapping a picture of my watch to send to them.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
Like it's nuts. They were tracking everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like they just trusted them. They were tracking them.
Oh, because there was dudes who were bullshitting for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Like, I mean, you know that anywhere you go, it doesn't matter what level you play at, like there's going to be dudes bullshitting and stuff. And I will say this, I was lucky to have somebody out there with me. It's a lot harder to bullshit when you have somebody to hold you accountable. Like having Paul, you know, at the end of the day, when you're by yourself, it's a little bit easier to wake up and be like, yeah, I'm not going to go there today. But when you got, and Will Reichard was with us too. And so when you got kind of two other guys that are counting on you to be there that day too, it does make it a little bit better. And it's seeing your friends and stuff. So that helped us out a ton for me at least, continuing to be consistent with it and all that. And so, but going through COVID, like I want to backtrack a little bit because I was just thinking of something that kind of talks about like the mentality and stuff. And it'll kind of connect later with COVID that year. So after the Citrus Bowl, I'm like this young kid, and like it's my first season. Like I was talking about it. I was getting to it earlier. Big bowl game. It's cool. It's really cool.
Citrus Bowl, huge.
Citrus Bowl, like New Year's Day, I think it was. Like cool deal. Well, I remember being so excited to get my ring, and like I'm like, oh yeah, like you know, get a ring after a bowl game.
Of course.
And, like so, I'm so excited about it. March comes around when everybody, that typically would come in, no ring comes in, and I start kind of asking around. I ask older guys, and I'm like, hey, like when are we going to get our rings? And they're like, oh, we only get championship rings here. So like we didn't even get a bowl game ring. Saban only wanted rings that were from championships.
So Bama only gives out rings if you win a ship.
Yep. Only championships. SEC, Natty,
semifinals, like anything like that. But like
semifinals, you get a ring.
You get 3 of them for a year now. You get a semi, or it might be
if you
more
win the
now
Natty
with playoffs. But yeah, if you win the Natty, you get 3 rings at least when we were there.
Wow. But if you don't make any championship and you just play in a bowl game,
no,
he
didn't give us anything. We got a
you
watch.
Didn't get shit, pal.
We got like a Columbia.
Got a couple of watches.
Hey, what time is it? Damn.
It was nuts though, but that's like
that is a different standard.
It's a mentality. Like it was like, hey, our standard's not to win the Citrus Bowl.
Right.
You know, like our standard is championships. And like at the end of the day, I think like, you know, like it's very hard to win every single year. You're not going to win the championship every single year. I don't think nobody's ever done it. Like it's back-to-backs is tough already.
Like UConn women's basketball had like the best run, I think.
Exactly. And like it's absolutely nuts. But like I think Saban's thing of it was like, we're going to be at the table. You know what I mean? Like even if we don't win it, we had a shot, or it wasn't a good year. And that was the mentality the fans took on too. Like, you know, Alabama's a tough place. You're seeing it this year. Like Alabama's not having a terrible season by any means, but if you talk to an Alabama fan, you would think it's the worst team Alabama's ever had. And so that's just kind of the standard that was built there throughout it. But fast forward, we're going through COVID and people are still getting COVID. Like nobody really knows what's going on. Every week I remember guys are down, and like at this point it was like if you even thought you had COVID, you were out for a week. I mean, you didn't have to test positive. Like if you said the word COVID, they were sending you home. I mean, and so people were just out left and right. And like I felt bad for our trainers because our trainers tried really hard to enforce the mask stuff. Like I will say that, like they were trying to enforce it, but at the end of the day, like I was talking about earlier, we're outside running sprints and you're getting waterboarded by it.
You are?
Like, I mean, at some points they turned into bandanas for us because we had like the athletic ones, which were better, but they still just weren't cutting it. Well, later on in the year, we finished summer workouts, and like I remember there were talks, but everybody definitely thought there was going to be a season during the summer. You know, like the vibes weren't like bad at that point. It was like that wasn't even in the equation, honestly. It was like there's going to be a season. I remember we get closer to fall camp time, and like we have this week break before fall camp, and of course I got COVID during the week break, and so I didn't get a break during that time, and I'm sitting there and I'm recovering from COVID. And like when you have COVID, you're sitting on the couch scrolling through Twitter all day. That's about all you can do to play in the game. And that's when like all these conferences started shutting down.
Yeah.
And we're about to go into fall camp.
Dude, I get it.
You know what I mean? And like, I'd be lying. I think others would be too if you're just sitting there like, what the am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, am I really about to go do fall camp after we're not playing this year? You know what I mean? Like all these other conferences and stuff are shutting down. And also fall camp was a week longer, 2 weeks longer that year because they ended up scooting the season back.
Right.
If you remember. And so basically instead of making fall camp shorter,
7-week fall camp.
literally, and
Bro.
they spaced it out. You know what I mean? They spaced it out, but that's still meetings from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so like,
Which that's what fall camp is.
and it's like there would be days where we would just do meetings and no practice so that we could utilize the entire time. And like, yes, it was better on your body, no doubt. You know what I mean? Like having that day off, but
Long
mentally,
day, man. It's a long day.
and all that's running through the back of your mind is we're not even going to play a damn season.
Wow.
But like, I will say this, we had great leaders. Like this is when, Mac Jones had played that season before, but this is really when I think like he took like a different leap into it. Like I can remember Mac was always one of those guys that was like block out the outside noise. Mac had a lot of hate and stuff. And like, I felt like a lot of people hated on Mac for no reason a lot of times. And so Mac had to kind of learn to block that outside noise out. And I feel like COVID to him, that was just outside noise.
Right.
And so I can remember like him just kind of being a big reiterate of it. Like that we don't care if we play or not. We're going to be ready. You know what I mean? This team's going to be ready. Devontae Smith, not the vocalist guy, but he was pretty vocal about that. Like, we had great leaders on that team, and I think Slade will agree with it too. Like, that was probably the closest team I've ever been a part of.
Wow.
And I think COVID was a huge deal to that. I mean, we partied together, we hung out together, we did everything together because, like, at the end of the day, we couldn't do anything with anybody else.
Wow.
Because, it was one big circle we kind of had within there. And, like,
Player ran, too.
yeah, player ran. And, like, everybody was friends. Like, that was the coolest part about that team. Like, when you're a part of a college football team, if you're counting everybody at Alabama, we probably had 130 people on our team. Like, it's hard to be friends with everybody. But that team, it felt like everybody truly did everything together. And so we get into the season, though, and everything's still weird. Tuscaloosa shut down, restaurants are shut down, and, like, things aren't right. And I remember we played at Missouri game 1. There's like 10 fans in the stadium. Now, I think at Missouri that's pretty normal, but they said this was because of COVID. But, so we end up playing there, though, and it was just like, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it's football. Like, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You come from like Alabama where normally every game we played in, the stadium was full. Like, I mean, it was packed out, and this is still true, but it was a national championship for every team that we played. Like, if they beat Bama, it was a successful year. So that was weird. And then I remember going back home and playing at Bryant-Denny, and like there's crowd noise being pumped. We're at 30% capacity, I think it was. Like, it was something, maybe 50%, something crazy.
How many people is that? 20,000?
50% would be, it's 107,000 that I believe it holds.
30%. Call it 30 grand.
Yeah.
30
It'd be like around 35, 36 people. I don't know the math. I'm not a math guy, but.
But, it looks bad. Like, in a stadium that big, you're like looking around, and it's weird. And you can tell a difference between fake crowd noise and real crowd noise.
Of course.
Like, there's a huge difference when hearing it come out of a, speaker to being real. And so all that stuff was weird. And I still remember the thoughts, like, nobody really knew what's going on. COVID's still going on. All these things are happening. And, like, there were really important players on our team at that time that hadn't had COVID yet. And basically what it meant, if you hadn't had COVID, that means you were getting tested every week. I think it was like twice a week. And there were guys that, like, if we lost them, they were very, very important to the team, and they'd never had COVID.
Yeah. And
so it was always a nerve-wracking, like, hey, is our star player going to be gone, this week? Like, is he not going to be able to play because he has COVID? And then Coach Saban gets COVID. We're going, I don't remember who we were about to, I think it was Georgia we're about to play, and this was the false one. But, like, the day before the game, he tests positive for COVID, and then after that, they said it was so, like, we're getting ready for this game. Coach Sarkisian's going to be our head coach. And Coach Sarkisian's awesome, obviously doing a great job at Texas. But, like, that's a weird change. Coach Saban's been the head coach at Alabama for the longest time. And now 2 days before the game, we figure out that Coach Sarkisian's going to be leading us out against Georgia. Like, that's freaking nuts. And then comes out as false positive. Saban shows up back to the hotel.
Let's talk about that real quick. I mean, we don't play anymore. Like, what do you think? I wonder what that conversation was with the person that needed to make the vocal announcement. Like,
I can't, like, here's one thing I will say. Coach Saban, like, maybe he did try to fight it, but I think COVID was such a big deal at this point. It didn't really matter how important you were. It didn't matter who you were. Like, there was no him coaching after if it would have been a real positive.
Right.
And this was at the time, if you tested positive, they tested you again. Like, that wasn't unnormal.
Dude,
you know what I mean? That was not unnormal at all.
Which, if you want to go down a conspiracy train here, like, I feel like those COVID tests, I feel like half of them were real tests and the other half were just like
Placebo.
a lottery. You're positive. You take another one. You're negative. It's like, come on, man.
Dude,
Come on, man.
I mean, it was. I remember guys putting like rubbing alcohol in their nose before test, hoping that it would like kill the test. It's like
I've never tested positive in
trying
college.
everything.
I did gasoline once. Gasoline right here. Whatever it takes, Mac. Whatever the it takes to win.
I just didn't get COVID.
No, me either. I have the immune system of like a stallion horse.
People said I had the immune system of a Greek god.
How about that?
I disagree, but it was crazy. Like one time, I don't vape anymore, but I was ripping someone's vape who got it, and then like 3 different people who ripped this vape got it. I didn't get it, but y'all ended up. Wait, what were you gonna say?
You grew up in the mud, baby.
I did. You could say that, like in really nice looking mud, you know.
Dirt though.
Yeah, you could say that. But
Pierce.
that season, they dominated.
No, yeah, I think I've voiced this many times. Like, there's certain programs, and this is coming from a Mountain West Fresno State guy, and this was my brother Mac's freshman year.
Yeah.
So they didn't handle it as well. They had no summer practice, no fall camp, and they found out they were going to play. It was like mid-September. They practiced. I think he practiced 2 weeks before his first game of college football. There were Zoom meetings and
There's
Zoom
more injuries from
workouts
that,
and all this
too.
shit.
Like it's
You have no idea.
Yeah, it's bad for
I
the
mean,
players.
It's just not good. And I think that was our worst season in a long time. We went like 3-3. They played 6 games.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, for what? But I think that 2020 football season was a pivotal point, I think, in our country.
Yeah.
Because people, the kind of what it was, all right, you know, NBA shutting down. This is shutting down. NFL, well, they're big pharma. They're a corporate company. Like, they're shutting down. College football as a whole is segmented into conferences. Like, the SEC
Shut down.
is our frontline soldiers of grit when it comes to, we don't need the government. We don't need anything. You got 100 yards of grass in football. We're going to play this shit, right? That's it. And so when you saw, like, I think that was, I really think if there wasn't a football season that year in college, like, it's already, things are still kind of getting adjusted from it. But I think things would have been a lot worse.
Well, you know, mental health was already really bad during that.
It's
and
terrible.
For a lot of guys, like, football is kind of a way, like, watching football. You know, it's relaxing for a lot of people.
It's
like,
an outlet.
It's stressful, like some, you know, whatever, but like it's an outlet, like you said, it's something fun to do. And I feel like you would have taken that away.
Right.
I mean, people would have gone nuts. You know, they would have lost their mind not to have anything to do at all. And so it was a big deal. And like, just back into that year, you know, we're going throughout it and we keep playing and we just keep doing our thing. We play the hardest schedule in the country too. Yeah. All SEC.
Good.
Wasn't a single out of SEC. The only teams in the SEC we didn't play was Vanderbilt and I think somebody else. And at that time, you know, Vanderbilt wasn't as good. And so like,
watch out for them.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to say anything too bad after.
Shit.
But they just weren't. they like the teams we didn't play weren't the top teams that year. And so we were playing the best teams in the SEC. And it was, I can remember kind of one of the turning points was we played Georgia at home. And that was a big game. You know, always when you play Georgia now, that's one of the bigger games of the year. We go into that game, and the scoreboard won't say it, but the way that I can say is, like, we stomped them. You go look at the last drive of that game, there was 5 minutes left on the clock. And as an offensive lineman, like, I feel like this is, like, your dream come true. You get the ball left, there's 5 minutes, the other team has 3 timeouts. And you win the game with the ball in your hand.
Yeah.
You take 5 minutes off the clock because you're literally 3 yards every single play. And they can't stop you. No. They know you're going to run the ball, and they can't. And that was the end to that Georgia game. And I remember, like, Saban dancing in the locker room after that, and that's, like, not something he normally does. You know what I mean? I remember they, like, posted a video about it, and people freaked out because of COVID, and they had to take it off. I wish that video was still there. Like, it was.
Hey, Jay, can you find that?
I guarantee you can find it. Like, it was him, like, dancing in the locker room. But it was just a really cool moment because, like, Saban, he was awesome, but he was a very serious guy. Like, I tell a lot of people he treated Alabama football as a corporation. He was the CEO. And, like, that's why it worked for him. Like, it was great. And he cared about everybody. That was just kind of his thing. So it was cool to see him, like, let loose like that.
Yeah.
Dancing in the locker room. But I felt like that was when everybody looked at each other and it was like, all right, we didn't go through this shit for nothing.
Let's go win this.
Yeah, we're winning this thing. And so we just kept winning. I mean, all SEC schedule, we're winning. Playing the SEC championship. I think it was Florida. Beat Florida that year in the SEC championship. And then we play Ohio State or Notre Dame in the semis. And that's when Najee jumped over the guy running down the field on the sideline. And we beat them pretty well. And so play that game. It was that game was in Dallas. It was the Rose Bowl. So, the Rose Bowl is normally in California.
Oh, yeah. Played there many times.
Like, would have been a dream come true, but because of COVID, California wasn't allowing football at that time. And so they did the Rose Bowl at the Cotton Bowl.
I did not know that.
Or AT&T Stadium.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. So we played the Rose Bowl in Dallas, and then played in that. We beat Notre Dame. Then we go to Miami. And I remember it's just so funny looking back because this was the first time ever where it felt like COVID was finally done. And, like, COVID was obviously still big, not saying that. But, dude, we had gone from, like, getting tested by the SEC weekly, and now even the guys that had it, their immunity's ending now. And now I'm about to go into my senior year of college.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they do like in-home visits and stuff, and him and Coach Collins come to my house. And I remember sitting there and, like, I wasn't interviewing Coach Key. I've known Coach Key my whole life, not my whole life, but, for a long time.
Long time.
Like, I had no need to interview him. Coach Collins was kind of the main person I wanted to get to know, and Coach Collins, I loved him. He was awesome. I mean, he sat down. He was a really, really good dude, and so just kind of fell in love with it, but still took my official to Maryland, took it to Georgia Tech. I'm going to be honest. I actually thought I was going to go to Maryland. I'm, like, up there, and I'm hanging out with some of the players. I remember C.J. Dupree was my host. He's at Alabama now, but he was my host at Maryland, and he's a great dude. Talking with him, and I'm like, okay, like, I want to come to Maryland.
Right.
I love Georgia Tech, but, like, I thought Maryland was my spot, and I think I even told my friends, like, Maryland was where I was going to go. That next week, like, I'm at home, and I hadn't committed yet or anything, and I remember my mom, like, I could just genuinely tell, like, she did not want me to go to Maryland.
Really?
Just because how far it was. Like, I was a kid from Alabama who went to Tuscaloosa. Like, I'd never really been far from the house.
Right.
Whereas Atlanta's a lot closer. And so once I kind of tell that, at the end of the day, I was like, I just want to play. Like, it didn't really matter to me, like, where I was. Like, I wasn't worried about the city or anything. And I was like, you know what? Like, I love these people at Georgia Tech. Coach Key, I know. Why not go there, be close enough to home, to still come back and, like, get to play and be with people I'm comfortable with. So I went to Georgia Tech. Great decision. I was very happy I went there, man. Like, I love Coach Collins, and ended up being a tough run for him there. I think special teams is kind of what got to it at the most, honestly. Our first 4 games, we had 4 block punts.
I'll get you.
We won 1 game, and it was against a FCS school. And the other games, like, our first game was against Clemson. It's a tough first game at Mercedes. We didn't play terrible. Our offense just didn't do great, honestly. Second game, we played Western Kentucky, beat them. Or not Western Kentucky, an FCS school from Kentucky. I can't think of the team. I can't think of who it was. But then after that, we play Ole Miss. We get stomped. We play them in Atlanta at Bobby Dodd Stadium, and they stomped us 49-0. And I, like, craziest moment, coming from Alabama, I'm very used to winning. Like, kind of got used to that. So a little bit different because, like, Georgia Tech had been losing games for a while. So, like, kind of the culture was a little bit different. Like, guys kind of were used to losing, I felt like. And so that was one thing that I didn't really like there. But I remember sitting in that locker room, and our athletic director at the time walks in. And I had never, like, our athletic director, if he was in the locker room at Bama, it was to congratulate us or to be nice. Our AD walks in and, like, basically told us if we don't beat UCF, Coach Collins is getting fired in front of everybody. Like, in a shortened version, it was like you just got your ass kicked by Ole Miss. And it was like, okay, like, Ole Miss is a good team. Next week we're playing Central Florida. They're a lot more to our level. We should compete and we should beat this team. And if you don't, changes are going to be made.
You know the story?
No.
That's crazy.
Dude, it was nuts. Like, dudes are in the locker room, and, like, and Coach Collins is talking to the team, I remember, and, like, our AD jumped in, like, during the middle of this. I mean, crazy shit. Like, and he was worried about his job too, though. He was worried about his job also.
Well,
he ended up getting let go as well.
It's a chain of command. Believe me, when winning makes everything better.
Exactly. And Coach Collins, like I said, he was great. Like, I mean, I think special teams ended up just being the end to that. Like, I remember just hearing from fans and stuff, like, people were so frustrated. I think 2 of them returned for touchdowns. Like, block punts returned for touchdowns. So just, like, crucial.
Wins games, man.
We're playing against UCF. we're looking like we're going to win this game. They block a punt, return it for a touchdown.
5 games in a row?
This is the 4th game. This was just that 4th one where they did it. And so Coach Collins got fired right after that game. And Coach Key ended up taking over as the interim head coach. And the next week we played number 20 Pitt. We're 1-3. We beat them at Pitt.
Fired up.
Oh, fired up.
Fucking
First game
fired
as interim head coach. And Coach Key, like, one thing about him, he's one of the boys. Like, this is the guy who was like throwing in a Zen on the sideline and the camera's like literally on him. And he's like obviously just putting a Zen in his hand sitting out there. Like, he's one of the boys, always has been. And so I was very happy that he got the job.
Right.
If anybody was going to get it, like, that's my guy. Like, happy for him. We go and beat Pitt. And I remember like him in the locker room, it was like another player in the locker room. Like, he's jumping up and down. He's so excited, and just like his emotions, you could see it. And like, I mean, it was a really cool thing to see, because that was I think it was his first win ever as a head coach, first time being a head coach.
Right.
We go and beat a ranked team.
It's huge.
Then win some more games down the road, and like we ended up doing pretty well with Key. We were one win short of a bowl game, and considering he came into a 1-3 team, that's pretty good. And we had to play Georgia, some other teams. We beat number 13 North Carolina at North Carolina.
Wow.
That was probably one of my favorite games of my career, because I wasn't used to being an underdog. So it was really cool going into North Carolina as like the underdog. I think it was their senior night too, which as an opposing team feels good when you
fuck the seniors.
But when you're somebody's senior night, that normally means that they think you're a easy win.
Trash team.
You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of like, you want to make us your senior night. Like, all right, we'll show you.
Yeah.
And so we go and beat them. They're the number 13 team in the country. That win was just electric, because we go back in the locker room, and I just remember how nuts everybody's going. And like, we went nuts at Alabama, but this was a different level of like excitement, because like a lot of these guys had never
won like that
exactly
before.
And so now we're in a situation too where, don't get me wrong, our next game's Georgia, and it's our last game of the season, but now we're 1 win away from a bowl game.
Right.
And that was kind of our mentality. And we go and we play at Athens, and we're up. I think we were up or down, I can't remember, but the score was only 6-0, like close game at first half or something, and we should have scored a touchdown there, but we go into first half at 6-0. I remember standing in the locker room and like, we could do this. Yeah, like everybody's running around and they're like, we got this.
These guys aren't shit.
These guys aren't shit. Like, I remember hearing that a few times, and I remember I'm telling everybody, like, I've been a part of these big games, like, yeah, exactly. Like, I might have not played, and like I wanted to be that guy, but like I can think of like times being at Alabama when we were maybe not losing, but not winning as much as we should be against a team that we should be killing. Citadel, like that's a good example. Mercer, I think one time it was the same story, and like this talk we had at halftime, it was a different team that came out in the second half. Yeah. So like, I'm trying to explain to everybody, like, Kirby is Coach Saban.
Kirby's getting them fired up.
I'm like, guys, like, we're playing great. Keep it up. Like, we got to do this, but calm the down. You know what I mean? Like, everybody calm down a little bit. Like, I know what they're being said in the locker room right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to come out here with their shit ready to go in the second half. And so they did. They ended up coming out and beating us in the second half. But that was my last career game. So finished up, and then I went and coached at Northern Arizona University.
Yep.
So went out there. But Coach Key, he's still the head coach at Georgia Tech. Shout out to him. And he's dominating right now,
dude.
Man. I think he's 1 game short of a bowl game right now. Went to a bowl game last year as his first season. So
beat Florida State this year in Dublin.
Dude, that was the downfall of their season. I called it.
Pierce was like, guys,
they got me some
Tech's
change.
Gonna beat Florida State, and now we're all like, all right,
I got a money line.
Hammering.
You did? You got a money line?
First game of the season, and so that was weekend 1, and I texted all of them, and I was like,
Dublin.
I'm telling y'all.
Yeah.
I was
Florida
like, Georgia
State,
Tech's
man.
coming, and they did.
The Yellow Jackets, they just buzzed their way around.
Let's talk to Florida State real quick, man.
Yeah, man.
Wow. You guys heard about the curse, right?
No, what's the
Did you
curse?
see my little spiel?
I haven't
that
seen this
spiel?
spiel.
I hadn't seen
I
it.
feel bad because I haven't seen this spiel.
All right,
Tell me what
so
this spiel is.
Florida State had a fan that said he would eat dog shit.
Oh yeah.
He said, "I'll eat a cup of dog shit if we lose to," I forget the team exactly. I think it was I don't know, Duke or something.
Yeah.
Like
It was
that.
the second game after Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it was the second
early.
game.
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
game. He said, "I will eat a red Solo cup full of dog shit."
Boston
Yes, that's what
College.
happened. It was Boston College,
Boston College, yep.
and they lost. Okay, so now this thing became they think Florida State's cursed. They're 1-6. They were top 10 before the season started.
It's nuts.
Like, first of all, that coach, Mike Norvell, like, is that the hottest seat, the fastest hot seat we've ever seen? You go undefeated, snubbed to the playoff. They got snubbed. Yep. They did. They got snubbed. Yeah. They did, though.
I mean, they weren't the
Alabama
better
was better.
team. They weren't.
Alabama
No.
They got snubbed, but they weren't the
It was
better
the
team.
right decision.
Yes,
It was
yes.
the right decision. But They did get
They got
snubbed.
No doubt. Undefeated.
They got snubbed.
This reminds me, we had this
champion,
conversation on the pod before it happened.
You did, huh?
It's just like, I don't think anybody can look with a straight face and say that Florida State deserved it over Alabama after their quarterback got after
I agree,
their quarterback
but
got hurt.
Travis,
like,
yeah.
If you're a team that goes undefeated, it's like, hey, at the end of the day, we're looking at who won more games, and it's like we fucking won more
they
games.
couldn't have done anything more. That was the
anything
truth.
more.
Like they couldn't have done anything more.
So, which I think this 12-team playoff's gonna help. Back to Florida State guy eating dog shit. So the guy said he would eat dog shit.
Yep.
Didn't eat dog shit. People are claiming that Florida State's now cursed. I think it's true. Kansas State had a fan. K-State had a fan. You know this one?
I don't know this one. I hadn't heard this.
Fucking viral on Bring the Juice for my little rant on this. Kansas State had a fan that said, if Kansas State loses tonight to BYU, I will shove a beefy 5-layer burrito up my ass.
What are these people doing?
I caught
dude?
wind of it early, and I was like, "Yo, we gotta check these facts out, bro." This dude said it. It went viral. They lost to BYU, and he did it,
Oh shit.
And they've been winning now.
huh?
Have they been winning now?
Yeah, K-State's been hot. What's K-State ranked?
So
Like
we gotta
17?
find if Florida
That guy
State
deleted
wants
his
to
Twitter.
solve
Florida
this
State
curse,
needs to.
they
He
gotta find
deleted
this
his
guy.
Twitter.
Deleted his Twitter. And it was a fake name.
And
like
then
he's gone.
2 weeks ago, some kid pretended to pick up dog shit and eat it. I also did a talking head on this. And he didn't eat it. He came out the day before the game and said, "I feel like a fraud. That was actually a piece of chocolate." And Florida State keeps losing. But K-State, the dude did shove a burrito up his ass. And
now they're
winning.
back.
They're
Look, I'll say this to Florida State people: if you can rally up the funds, between the base, and it's enough, it's a substantial amount of money. I'm thinking upwards of $500K here. If they give it to me, I'll do it live for them to help them solve.
whoa. You'll eat dog shit?
Yeah, if they're giving me enough money. Listen,
How much money does it take for you to eat dog shit?
look, no.
No. Let's talk.
I can't be paid off. You know, that's the thing I like to go by. I can't be paid off. But I will say I've already technically done it one time when I was younger. You know, I'm one of 5/6 kids.
Yeah, so
And
I'm
my
oldest of
mom
4.
said, yeah. But
That doesn't mean you start eating dog shit back. Your story's not starting off
Listen,
great.
this is where you got to listen to the story. My mom was looking at my other siblings stuff, comes back into a room and sees like chocolate coming out of my mouth. It wasn't chocolate. It was not chocolate.
How old were you? 4?
I was very young. Yeah, I was very young.
13.
I was going to say 11.
But my mouth is very clean these days now.
Nah.
But all that to say, if Florida State were look, I'm not saying I can be balled out.
What's
I'm not
your
saying
number?
They have
What's your number?
No, I'm not giving a number. I'm saying
Every
it's
man has their
a
number.
blank check. Now that we're thinking
If someone
about
had a pile of dog shit right here at $50,000 and they say,
No.
Mac, go.
no,
50 grand?
no.
I'd eat dog shit.
Keep going up. Keep going up. Keep going.
How much
50
are we?
grand.
How much are
50
we?
grand,
No.
cold hard cash.
No.
Pierce, what's your number?
How much dog shit are you?
Here's his number. It's probably
eating, like,
$100.
What? Okay,
Whole
no.
pile of
One-
dog shit, or like
one-
is it like one
One
like,
Snickers bar worth of dog shit.
one Snickers bar?
One.
Is it a poodle? Is it a
100.
like what type of dog is it? I mean, is it like
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's
as long as
choice.
it came out of a canine.
if
He's probably gonna do 100.
if you put 50 grand on the table, like
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna eat it. I mean, like my only worry is like I'd maybe have to do some more research and stuff into it. Like I'd want to figure out like, can I get sick from this?
Of course, you're going to get sick.
Like, but like how sick? I can
You're
deal
gonna
with the
puke.
stomach bug. I can deal with puking.
You're going
but,
to puke.
Like, am I gonna like
Go to the
have
hospital?
Like, and then now we're having to change it up a little bit. Like, if that's
You can't listen to me. I'm putting it right down right here. You can't buy me out. You can't put enough money on that table.
You're the one who brought it up.
I know I did, but you can't put enough goddamn money on the table and tell me to eat it because I'm not going to be bought out. Now, if I just want to do it randomly because I want to do it and test it out, maybe. But I'm saying I will not be bought.
But for the Florida State guy, my question with it is anybody else even allowed to do it?
I think
Like,
no.
sacrifice.
I
like,
don't think yes, but at the same time, if someone else did it, it'd make everyone feel better.
It's just not the same. Like I feel like you've got like Florida State fans. I know they've been trying, but you got to find this guy.
Yeah, you got to find this
You got to
guy.
find this
And there's
guy.
a
It
guy.
doesn't matter what it takes. Like you got to. Somebody knows who he is. Somebody
Someone's
knows.
got to find out. There's got to be some kind of hacker that you can hire. They should look. I saw
should be a
like,
hacker.
the CIA was
Yeah.
giving away like $1 million the other day to see who could hack like their system, like or something like that. CIA, FBI.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know which one it was.
One of the
Apple.
FBIs.
It was Apple. But I'm saying like they should.
CIA, FBI, Apple,
Listen.
the Navy SEALs.
It's all
Oh, wait.
It's all safe.
Listen, what they need to do, Florida State, if you're listening to this right now and you're trying to make a change in your freaking program, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go get every single goddamn booster and you're going to need to put all your money on the line and say, let's find this guy and we will find this guy and we will force him to eat it so that our season, and the rest of our program can be safe.
You have a belly full of white dog shit.
Mac, you saw their transfer portal class. They're already out of money. All that went to NIL.
That's what I'm telling you. It's part of the curse. That's what I'm saying. They need to put everything. They need to raise money. They need to go raise funding. They need to go on a train. They need to hire the best FBI staff, whoever they can find to find this guy.
Speaking of curses, let's talk American Airlines real quick.
Oh, God.
No, let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's air it out. Okay? Because I know you're a stressful guy.
I'm not a stressful guy.
You stress out.
No.
Stress guys deny that.
I'm super chill.
I'm fine.
Super chill.
Fine.
That time I had a great. My vibes. You want me to go into the story?
I just asked you about it.
Okay,
Yes, I do
I'll
want to
go
go
into the story because that Pierce Slade. I don't know if you've heard this, Jake. I think you've heard this before, but so my buddy Will Levis and I, plays for the Titans, are supposed to come to Frank's golf tournament. We are fired up. We are bringing the juice. Will and I are absolutely gassed. We're doing this thing. So Frank books flights. We're American Airlines. So we're American Airlines. We're coming out there. We have a connector. There's no direct from Nashville to Fresno. No. So we're going Nashville to Dallas to Fresno. We've been talking about this golf tournament for weeks. Frank has told me about it.
It's a lock.
It's an absolute lock. Will and I are talking about it every single day. This is going to be legendary. We got to go out there, win this thing, put up some good numbers, have a good time. All these people are coming. Frank has people from all over coming to this tournament. They're having a shuttle pick people up. They're having a party limo bus. They're having a nice group dinner, steaks, everything you can think of, the whole nine. So we're just on cloud nine, and we're both freaking pumped. Will's never been to Fresno. Yeah. I've been to Fresno once, and I know how Frank does it, and it's top notch, as you've already seen today. And so all this to say, everything is going to the point where I'm like, this is going to be an awesome trip. We get on the flight from Nashville to Dallas, and I'm pretty sure our flight from Nashville originally was a little bit delayed. We get on the flight, the American Airlines flight. We're flying to Dallas, and we're in the air, and it's been a long time. That flight is, I'm trying to think how long the flight from Nashville to Dallas is. 3 hours? 2 hours, 3 hours? It's been about 4.5 hours. We haven't landed. I'm like, what is going on here? This is freaking crazy. I'm seeing this lady sit next to me with a flight map. And she's a worker for American Airlines, and she's like, oh, we're fricked. And I'm like, oh, God, this is not good. We're pretty much screwed. What's going on here? And she's like, oh, you weren't supposed to be listening. I was like, well, you're showing your phone around and stuff. All this to say, we're on this flight, and I'm starting to get a little bit okay, this is tough. And Will and I are looking at each other. We're sitting across aisle from aisle. And we're like, this is nothing. We're full sitting in this golf tournament. Nothing's going to stop us. We don't care if we're a little bit behind, whatever. And we're like, we'll make the connector. Well, they land in San Antonio. They land in freaking San Antonio. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what are we doing in San Antonio? This is not Dallas. Get me to freaking Dallas. And so we're in San Antonio. We're sitting on the tarmac. And it was kind of fun. That was where we're having fun with it. Will and I, we're texting Frank. Frank's firing us up.
They're sending me selfies. I'm like, selfies. Adversity struck, boys. Lock in. How's it going to respond?
We're sending him videos and stuff. We're actually Will's the starting quarterback for the Titans. So he goes up there. He asks him, he's like, can we go outside? We're outside on the freaking thing.
Outside the plane.
We're outside the plane. They're not letting anyone out there. We're just FaceTiming people, Snapchat, and this is pretty lit. Will's getting in the cockpit. I'm taking a couple pictures of the cockpit. We're running this. This is now our plane. We've taken over, but they're still sitting there. We sit on this tarmac for near 2 hours or something. I'm like, okay. And again, our vibes are still incredible. We know how much fun this trip is going to be. And they're all the delays in Dallas are going to be fine. You're all going to make it out there good. So we're like, all right, if they're telling us after all of this nightmare of travel that we're going to be fine, completely understand, and we're cool with that. And they've offered pretzels or something. The pretzels are pretty good. So they take us back up, and we start circling Dallas again. And we're at this point, we're there's no way. There's no way we're making this connector flight. Well, we were right. I mean, there's no way. So the flight already goes off to Fresno, the flight that we were supposed to be on. So again, adversity strikes, but what do? We strike right freaking back. And we're we're gonna do this thing.
Pow!
We're in a little boxing match, and we're freaking Rocky Balboa taking down this freaking person right now. And so we land in Dallas finally after hours. This has been already a 7-hour flight. We were on this plane for 7.
Could have been Hawaii by now.
Yeah, we could have been Hawaii. We could have been Japan, Tokyo,
Alaska,
China, Antarctica, whatever you want to say. But we get there, and so we get off the flight, and we're like, all right, thank God, we're finally here. So we get a text, and it's you're at this gate. Will and I go to this gate in Terminal A of Dallas. You know how Dallas is. You and Slade were running around madmen with your heads cut off there this morning. Trains, all this stuff. So we take a train in one place. We go to that place, and they're like, hey, sorry, no, the flight's in another gate. So we go 3 gates over. We take another train. And we're still, again, our vibes, I was impressed. Me and Will both were our vibes were extremely high.
Very high.
Still very high. After 7 hours of this flight, of like being on a plane,
Very
not
high.
having any food, we didn't have any like barely got any water. They were like running out of water on the flight and stuff. And so,
Third world country.
yeah,
I can tell you why he couldn't find his gate. This is the guy who just figured out about the American Airlines app like last week.
Buddy, no, don't
they're
you
not
gotta-
gonna, they're not going to update it on your paper boarding pass. You know, it's not just going to start updating.
They
on
sent me
there,
the
like-
text. I was on the text thread, pal. They send me the text. It says American
Hey,
Gate
pal.
flight, whatever. So I'm going to. So we go to that gate because it's freaking like I can't even describe how battled down we were. And again, I'm thankful. I'm like, dang, I get to ride on a plane today. I get to go to Fresno, California. I get to play
get
golf
to do this.
I get to do these things. I am blessed and I am freaking grateful. We get off. We go to like 6 different gates. They've screwed up the whole entire thing. We get to the final gate. And there's hope. There's a slither. There's a slither of freaking hope. We're not going to make the grand opening party, the big night, the steak dinner, everything, seeing all the other athletes, everything like that. We're not making it. And we're like, okay, that's fine. We're going to go in there. We're going to get 2 hours of sleep, and we're going to win this goddamn golf tournament. Will and I are lasered locked in. Yeah. We go to the last place. 12 a.m. it says it departs. When we started this flight day, I don't
I think
know.
it was 5:30 in the morning.
It was early in the morning,
Yeah.
5:30 in the morning.
I
They
think
didn't
it
get you a hotel, right?
5:30.
Whoa. Hang on there, Pierce.
Just wait for it, Pierce. 5:30 in the morning. It is now. This flight is taking off at 12 a.m. So this has been how long? How long is that? I'm not a
long
good
time.
math guy.
It's a long time.
Long time. We're starting to get like pretty fed up. And like we're like, okay, this is like now we're starting to like the vibes are starting to get attacked. And like the whole time we've kept our vibes up. Oh my God. I mean, this is giving me nightmares thinking about this. 12 a.m. Fresno sign, Fresno, California. It was literally like you're seeing the open gates of heaven like appear. And I'm texting Frank and I'm like, we've made it. Like, this is it. We're here. They're taking a flight off at 12 a.m. Hey, everyone, like we're getting ready to board Fresno flight 66120 or whatever it is to Fresno, California. And so we're like, yes, like they're boarding. I'm texting Frank, like, here it is. We've made it. We're fine now. 12 a.m. It's all been worth it. We're starting to board. Everyone gets lined up. They board like group one. And of course, I'm not group one. I don't have like all Pierce's Delta premium and stuff, whatever it is, American Airlines premium. So they're getting like group two goes in and then they just stop. And they're like, hey, everybody, unfortunately, we don't have a pilot. So everyone, we're going to need you. This flight's not going to Fresno. And there's
We've
like
done
a
this
family.
exact thing.
I'm upset.
Sounds
I'm
right.
upset. But also I'm like, again, I was proud of myself and proud of Will because both of us were sitting there and we were so happy to go to this thing. And we're like, there's like a family over there and they're trying to get back to like to Fresno to see their friend. They're crying and stuff. I'm like, dang, like this is like this sucks for us, but like for other people, this is a lot worse. Like we were going to a golf tournament, you know, it was pretty great golf tournament. So like I'm still like we're still grateful and blessed. And we're like, all right, we'll find a flight to Fresno the next day. No flights. They say go sit in the customer service line. The customer service line is. I mean, I'm trying to tell you, buddy, you imagine Disney World, Six Flags, the highest peak of the year. This line is ultimatum. This is freaking it's like a snake. It goes
It's
back
late at night, so everyone's
It's late at night. Everyone's pissed off. So we're like, and then we're like walking through the line. I'm like, I can't wait in this. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not waiting in this line. I'm not a line waiter guy, whatever. So we call the number. Someone gives us a card and they're like, hey, call the number to help you a little bit better. Absolutely not. We get on a call. Will and I are talking to this guy. He's like, sorry, like, you're not going to Fresno. We'll figure out everything tomorrow. Our golf clubs are out there somewhere. My clubs are just out there in the wilderness. My bags, everything is just gone. I don't know where it is. So we're like, all right, we're screwed. They will not reimburse us. They did not reimburse us for hotel. They did not get reimbursed for anything. No hotel, nothing.
No
We are
voucher?
stranded. This is this time because we waited and called and tried to wait in line. This is 1:30 in the morning, and we're at the goddamn airport, and we're like, what do we do? There's no flights to Fresno. It's chalked. Like, this is over. And we're like, we're just gonna go. So we go to the bag people. They're like, hey, sorry, you can't get your bags. You're gonna have to get them back at your original place that you flew out of. We don't know where anything is. They didn't give us a hotel. Me and Will are sleeping butt to butt in a bed. We found one room in all of Dallas. We're sleeping butt to butt in a freaking bed in Dallas and had to spend the weekend there, which ended up being a good weekend there. But American Airlines screwed me harder than I've ever been screwed before. This could have been a tape illegally online. You could find it somewhere.
Yeah.
Good thing we didn't film it. But
know.
they almost did it to me today again. And it's crazy to me that an airline uses the word American Airlines. Because when I think of America, I think of premium. I think of the best in the world. I think of the best freaking country that's ever been made. And American Airlines screwed us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fuck those guys.
I think I'm the only person in America who likes American Airlines.
Hang on here. But when you go first class American Airlines and your flight's on time, elite.
Elite, no doubt.
Warm nuts.
Free
cocktails,
drinks. Yeah.
meals. Honestly, wait till my dad pulls in here and be like, "Hey, do you like first class meals from American Airlines?" He loves their short rib.
But look, Frank, you're
Fucking
talking to
loves their
somebody.
short
I
rib.
don't experience first class.
I got it. You
okay,
gotta
I'm sitting
upgrade.
in the back.
You could upgrade here and there, but I'm saying is
It's
it's really good. But American Airlines, we've slept on the floor in Dallas at least 4 times. Like, and I'm a very nice person. I'm logical. Hey, you know what? The engine's failing.
I think we both are.
You know what? The air conditioning's not working. Okay, I'll figure some shit out. We had a night where we got boarded and unboarded 3 times. And then it was like 3 a.m. was the last one. And we sat on the plane for like 45 minutes. And they made us unboard and said, sorry, our pilots are out of hours.
Yeah.
Same.
And I'm like,
yeah,
yo, you knew this already. Like, it's a math
Yep.
equation.
Teased us.
They do it on purpose.
It's like a sports bet. You guys, he's there on 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1. You know, you're going to get the touchdown, and he screws you. He bends you over backwards. I mean, it's absolutely freaking unbelievable.
With work now, like I've figured out I have to travel a ton, and like my coworkers travel a ton, and most of them have been doing it for a long time. They gave me a rule of thumb: if it gets delayed more than 3 times, go home, find a hotel, like do whatever. It's done. Because that pilot, like the hours thing, they're not stupid.
Yeah.
If it gets delayed that 3rd time, you're pushing the time anyway, and they just wait until it hits the time where they can't fly. And so then they're like, "Oh, sorry, your pilot can't fly. He ran out of hours," and it's just ridiculous.
Ours didn't say, ours didn't say out of hours, but ours, like, the guy just said the pilot was like too tired or they didn't have enough pilots. It was a crew issue in their documentation. It was wrong. And American Airlines, listen, I'm not just a person who gives 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th chances, because this has been so many goddamn chances y'all have had to make this up to me, and y'all haven't done anything. So if y'all see this, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to use this as a PR. I will back y'all if y'all give me some kind of cool privileges or pay me out something. I can, I said I couldn't be bought, but there may be enough dollars in your pocket that I can be bought. And that's what I want to say. We rode American today. It worked out for us. We're all here. It was a great day. Happy to be on the pod. Fresno, we're freaking here. We're rocking this
Here's
shit.
quick. Appreciate you, Mac. Appreciate you. We're going to get rowdy this weekend. Be sure to follow these fellows on the gram. Subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Army of Grit. Activate. Get your piss hot. We'll see you next week.